1 Corinthians 14:34, the women should keep silence in churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but should be subordinate, as even the law says.
Yep.
Can you touch on your opinion on if women should be allowed to speak in churches or not?
Here's a question that's sure to spark curiosity. Why did Paul make such a bold statement? Are women truly forbidden to speak in churches? Join us as Cliffe unpacks this controversial topic, offering a clear and thoughtful explanation of what Paul really meant.
It's real simple. In the next chapter, or the previous chapter, Paul writes, when women pray and prophesy, they're to have their heads covered. Well, what are you, Paul? Schizophrenic? You're telling women when you pray and prophesy, have your heads covered. That's obviously talking, praying, and prophesying in public. And I don't let women talk. Now, you got to read in context. You don't just interpret any way. All right, let me ask you guys, how do you interpret what you read? How do you interpret any book? Come on, guys, help me. How are you taught at this fine university to interpret what you read? What principles are there? Thank you. Who said that? Right on, brother. Context. You don't rip one line out and say that's the point of the author. To interpret, you read in context, as the gentleman said. What's another point? If it's science, do you read it as poetry? You will flunk. If it's poetry, do you read it as science? No, you will flunk. You respect literary genre, literary style. So when Jesus says, I am the good shepherd, does that mean that he was literally a shepherd who took care of sheep? He's using metaphor, isn't he, to make a point. When Jesus says, I am the light of the world, is he claiming to be a 100-watt light bulb? No. He's using metaphor once again to make a point. So, you read in context, you respect literary style, and you interpret. So when Paul says, when women are praying and prophesy, they're to have their heads covered, and I do not allow a woman to speak in public, what on earth is he talking about? Well, when you read, when he says, I do not allow a woman to speak, the context is order in worship. What was happening? We'll just go out and watch the movie Yentl. Barbra Streisand plays a young Jewish girl who wants to get an education. And in her culture, women were not allowed to get an education. So she has to disguise herself as a male in order to go to school. So what happens? The gospel of Jesus Christ comes in. Women are just as valuable as men, and the women go nuts. They abuse their new freedom. And they start just blurting out all over the place, and Paul says, boom, time out. Keep your mouth shut. Go out and get an education. Learn like Priscilla has. And my good friend Priscilla, who's obviously not a guy, is helping me, the Apostle Paul, to teach the great preacher Apollos how to preach.
Someone who is double-minded is unstable in all that they do. Like, I know that's what the book of James says, but what does God think about someone who is double-minded?
I doubt every day. Every time I sin, it shows I don't take Jesus seriously. I think I got a better way, so I doubt. But hopefully I am not double-minded. Meaning by that, well, maybe Jesus today, maybe not tomorrow. No. I have put my faith in Christ. It is my desire to obey him and follow him, but I blow it every day. I got bad habits. I have doubts. But I better not be double-minded, uncommitted, not really trusting Christ, just sort of using Christ to get me out of hell into heaven or whatever. No, don't do that. Don't play that game. So doubt, we all have it. No problem. God understands doubt. It's just fine. Just watch how Jesus treated Thomas, who doubted his resurrection. He didn't come up and say, you're an idiot, Thomas. No. He said, right here, Thomas, take your hands and put them in the nail prints in my hands. Take your hand and thrust in the spear in my side. And Thomas stopped doubting and believed. And Thomas bowed down and said, my Lord and my God. So we all doubt. But some of us are into being double-minded. We're sort of playing a game. Half on one side, half on the other side. No, I'm not going to make a decision. No, I'm not going to commit. I'm going to give intellectual assent to some facts, but then my will, I'm going to live my way all the time. That's not good. And James condemns that and says, watch out.